Welcome back to Ghetto Nation, where true horror hides in the shadows. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, then you already know. Some stories stick with you. Get comfortable, turn the lights down, and don't look behind you. These stories are based on real events, and some of them might still be happening. Let's begin. Story 1. The Forgotten Asylum. The story I am about to share with you is one that has haunted me for years. A tale of an urban exploration gone horribly wrong. A place where the line between reality and nightmare blurred, and the only escape was through terror. This is the true story of the Forgotten Asylum. It all started when I stumbled upon an old, dusty book in a secondhand store. The book, titled Urban Exploration, A Guide to the Forgotten World, spoke of a place long lost to time, hidden away in the heart of the city. A place that once housed the most disturbed and dangerous minds of its time. Sanctuary Asylum for the Insane. I knew I had to see it for myself. So, one cold, moonless night, I gathered my gear and made my way to the asylum. The door was unlocked, as if inviting me in. As I ventured deeper into the asylum, I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread creeping up my spine. The walls seemed to whisper secrets of the past, and the echoes of forgotten screams haunted the air. I had heard stories of the asylum's dark past, but nothing could have prepared me for what I found in the solitary confinement wing. The walls were covered in bloodstains, and the air was thick with the stench of fear. As I picked up the journal, I could feel the weight of its history in my hands. The pages were filled with the ramblings of a man who called himself Patient X. His words were haunting, painting a picture of a place where hope had long since died. Day 17. The darkness has consumed me. I can no longer tell the difference between reality and nightmare. They keep me here, alone, in the silence. I can hear the whispers of the other patients, their cries for help echoing through the halls. But no one comes. No one ever comes. As I continued to read, I began to feel a presence lurking in the shadows. A presence that seemed to be watching me, waiting for the right moment to strike. I knew I had to leave. But something inside me refused to let go. I had to know the truth about this place, no matter the cost. As I stepped into the main hall, I felt a sudden chill run down my spine. The air was thick with an unnatural presence, as if the very walls were alive with malevolence. I knew I was not alone. I could feel it, a presence lurking just beyond my sight. And then, the whispers began. I tried to run, but my legs refused to move. I was trapped, surrounded by the ghosts of the past. And then, the whispers took shape. I could feel their pain, their suffering. They wanted me to join them, to become one of them. And for a moment, I thought I might. But I fought back. I clung to the hope that I could survive this nightmare, that I could find a way out. And then, I saw it, a glimmer of light in the darkness. I burst through the door and into the night, the cold air rushing over me like a cleansing wave. I never looked back, never spoke of what I had seen. But the memories of that night haunt me still. And so, I share this story with you as a warning. A reminder that some places are better left forgotten, and that the horrors of the past should never be disturbed. Story 2. They say curiosity killed the cat. But for us, for those of us who chase the ghosts of forgotten places, it's not always death that's the ultimate consequence. Sometimes, it's something far, far worse. A wound to the very fabric of your sanity. A splinter of pure, unadulterated dread embedded so deep, you can never truly shake it free. My name is Alex. For 15 years, urban exploration has been more than a hobby. It's been an addiction. Abandoned factories, crumbling mansions, forgotten bunkers. The thrill of discovery, the quiet hum of history in decay. I've seen things that would make most people's skin crawl. Satanic altars in forgotten churches, entire hordes of mummified pets, the chilling remnants of lives that just stopped. But nothing prepared me for Blackwood Asylum. Blackwood wasn't just abandoned. It felt cursed. Built in the late 1800s, it had a truly horrific reputation. Stories of experimental treatments, unethical lobotomies, and patients disappearing without a trace. It closed abruptly in 1957. No official reason given, just a terse government statement citing unforeseen circumstances and patient welfare concerns. Locals whispered of a mass exodus, of doctors fleeing in the dead of night, leaving patients behind. For years, it was considered impenetrable. Fences topped with razor wire, motion sensors, even what looked like private security patrols from a distance. But a few months ago, a storm, a truly brutal one, tore through the region. It brought down trees, power lines, and crucially, a significant section of Blackwood's perimeter fence. This was my chance. My usual crew, 3 other explorers, backed out. Said their guts told them to steer clear. Me? My gut was screaming, all right. But it was screaming go. The forbidden fruit, you know? It was a Tuesday, late afternoon. Overcast, threatening rain. Perfect. I packed light, high-powered flashlight, backup headlamp, water, drone, gas mask. Never know with old buildings. And my trusty DSLR. The air felt heavy, almost thick. Not just with humidity, but with something else. Something I couldn't name. Getting in was surprisingly easy once past the fence. A broken window on the ground floor, half obscured by ivy. As I squeezed through, the silence inside was absolute. No wind whistling through broken panes, no distant traffic hum. Just the sound of my own breath and the frantic thumping of my heart. The main hall was classic asylum decay. Peeling paint, overturned furniture, medical charts scattered like grim confetti. Dust motes danced in the sparse light filtering through grimy windows. I moved cautiously, every creak of the floorboards echoing in the vast emptiness. What struck me immediately was the sheer order in some of the chaos. It wasn't vandalism. It was like the place had been evacuated in a hurry, but not ransacked. Files were open on desks. Medical tools lay on trays as if someone had just stepped away for a moment. I spent an hour or so documenting the patient wards, the common rooms, the cafeteria, standard Urbex stuff. Creepy, yes, but familiar. Then I found it. Deep in the basement, past the laundry facilities and boiler room, was a section I hadn't seen on any old blueprints I'd scrounged online. A newer edition, perhaps? The corridor was narrow, unlit, and the air here was different, colder, heavier. It smelled not just of decay, but of something metallic, something clinical. I pushed open a heavy, unadorned steel door at the end of the corridor. It groaned on rusty hinges, a sound that seemed to suck all the air out of the room beyond. What I saw stopped me dead. The room wasn't like anything else in Blackwood. It was small, maybe 10 by 10 feet, and it was pristine. Not a speck of dust. The walls were still a sterile white, the tile floor gleaming. In the center, a single, old-fashioned wooden chair was bolted to the floor. And on the back of the chair, crudely carved, was a single, stark, white X. This was wrong. So wrong. Years of neglect, storms, vandals. How could one room be untouched? My mind raced. Maybe a sealed-off storage unit. But why the chair? Why the X? I took a picture, my hands actually shaking. As I lowered my camera, I noticed something else. On the wall opposite the door, faintly, almost invisibly, was another X. And then, closer inspection revealed a third X on the ceiling directly above the chair. They weren't painted. They looked like they'd been scratched or scored into the very plaster, then somehow filled or covered with something that made them glow faintly under my flashlight. Like bone dust. I backed out slowly, my skin crawling. I tried to rationalize it. A janitor's prank? Some forgotten art project? But the feeling, it was like stepping into a cold pocket of pure dread. I decided to leave that section for a bit and head up. Tried to clear my head. The rest of the asylum felt almost comforting in its standard decrepitude after that. I found the old director's office, the administration wing. Nothing out of the ordinary. But as the afternoon wore on, a faint, almost imperceptible sound began to filter through the building. A low, rhythmic thump, thump. Like a heartbeat, but too slow, too deep. And it seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. I followed it. Deeper into the administrative wing, down another winding staircase I somehow missed earlier. This one was grander, marble, leading to another, even older-looking basement. The temperature dropped significantly here. The air felt brittle, charged, and the thump-thump grew louder. At the bottom, a heavy, ornate wooden door, unlike any other in the asylum. It looked like it belonged in a cathedral, not a mental institution, and carved into its center, in stark relief, was a familiar, stark white X. My heart was battering against my ribs. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, to run. But the curiosity, the dark, corrosive curiosity, pulled me forward. I pushed the door open. It moved silently, as if it had been perfectly maintained. The room beyond was circular, cavernous, dimly lit by a single, flickering bulb hanging from the impossibly high ceiling. It was dominated by a large, circular observation table in the center, surrounded by tall, dark wooden cabinets that lined the walls. But it wasn't the layout that horrified me. Number it was the occupants. Dozens of them, positioned around the table, in the corners, propped against the cabinets. Life-sized figures. Not mannequins, not exactly. More like crude, human effigies. Stitched together from burlap and old cloth. Stuffed with what looked like rags and straw. But the faces, they weren't merely blank. Each one had a face sculpted from some kind of waxy, pale substance. And each had eyes. Large, dark, glassy eyes that seemed to follow me. Not just black pupils, but irises, veins, unnervingly realistic. And on the chest of every single one, a stark white X. Some were faded, some freshly carved. The thump-thump was deafening now, vibrating through the floor. It felt like it was coming from within the room. On the circular table, among scattered rusty surgical tools and ancient charts, lay a series of leather-bound journals. Old, brittle. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped my flashlight. I picked one up. The first entry was dated October 1948. The handwriting was tight, clinical. It detailed a subject 4 and repeated experiments. Sensory deprivation, environmental manipulation, attempting to induce resonance. It sounded like some kind of grotesque psychological torture. I skimmed through dozens of entries, each one growing more frantic, the handwriting sloppier. Then, I found it. An entry dated March 12th, 1957, just a few days before the asylum officially closed. The resonance is unexpected. It's not simply auditory. It's a presence. It manifests when the subject is distressed. The X's are holding it. They are the only thing holding it. It feeds on the distress. Another entry, a day later. It moved. Not the subject, the resonance. It shifted. We doubled the X's. They are failing. The energy required to contain it is immense. Dr. Caldwell is dead. His chest imploded. Just like the patient reports. The X on his chest. It was there before he died. It was drawn. From the inside. My blood ran cold. The thump-thump was right behind the wall next to me. I could feel the vibrations in my very bones. The final entry. March 14th, 1957. A single, scrawled sentence. It found the seams in the containment. It looked at me. It isn't a resonance. It's a predator. And the X's, they aren't to contain it. They are to contain us, keeping us inside. Keeping us inside. As I read that last line, the single flickering bulb above me, already struggling, finally blew out. The room plunged into absolute darkness. The thump-thump stopped. And then, from the deepest corner of that terrible room, a shuffling sound. Not fast, not sudden, slow, deliberate, and a low, wet gasp that was not my own. I didn't even think. I dropped the journal, dropped my flashlight. Blindly, I scrambled backwards, tripping over something. One of the effigies. Its glass eyes, even in the total blackness, seemed to reflect a non-existent light. Cold. Terrifying. I clawed my way to the door, my fingers fumbling for the handle. The shuffling grew faster, closer. I could feel a shift in the air, a drop in temperature right behind me, like something vast and cold was looming. That metallic smell, stronger now, cloying. I tore the door open and didn't look back. I sprinted up the marble staircase, through the administrative wing, the patient wards, past the pristine X-marked room in the basement, not daring to glance inside. I didn't stop running until I burst out of that broken window, collapsing onto the damp ground outside, gasping for breath, the taste of rust and fear in my mouth. I made it home, but a part of me never left Blackwood. I never saw what it was. I never want to see what it was. But I felt it, and I carry it, every single day. The image of those effigies, the silent, pristine room, the X's. I stopped Urbex after that. I sold all my gear. I can't go back. I can't even look at an old building without feeling that cold dread, that metallic tang in the air. And sometimes, when the house is silent and the shadows grow long, I hear it, faintly, a deep, slow, rhythmic thump-thump. And sometimes, when I wake in the absolute blackness of night, I swear I can see it. Faintly. A stark, white X scrawled on the ceiling, just above my bed. Story 3. This isn't a ghost story. This is a story about what true human horror looks like when it's left to fester in the dark. This is about the Zenith Complex, and what me, Mark, and Liam found there. The Zenith Complex. Officially, it was a research facility, Cold War era. Decommissioned in the late 80s, left to rot. But the local legends? They always talked about something more. Whispers of a subterranean network. Experiments gone wrong. A section sealed off for unforeseen complications. We'd explored most of the surface years ago. Just standard decaying labs and empty offices. But the real draw for us was always that whispered about lower level. For years, we searched for an entry point. Every vent, every collapsed floor, every hidden tunnel. Nothing. Until last month. We were almost ready to give up on Zenith. Then, Mark noticed it. Behind a collapsed section of a boiler room, half buried under tons of debris, was a perfectly circular heavy-duty hatch. Not a standard pipe access. This was different. Steel. Riveted. Almost like a submarine door. And it was bolted shut from the outside. It took us nearly 3 hours with a hydraulic spreader and a portable grinder. The air was thick with rust and concrete dust. Liam, always the impatient one, was practically vibrating with excitement. I felt a knot in my stomach. This wasn't just another abandoned building. This felt wrong. What we descended into wasn't a basement. It was a shaft. Straight down, meticulously engineered, leading into absolute blackness. The air was dead, heavy, like it hadn't moved in decades. Colder, too. We dropped probably 50 feet before hitting a concrete floor. The shaft opened into a sterile, featureless corridor. No graffiti, no signs of previous trespassers. It was pristine, untouched. The silence down there was absolute. A sepulchral silence that pressed in on your eardrums. We walked for what felt like ages. Past empty labs, control rooms with corroded consoles, even what looked like a small underground cafeteria. It was all eerily preserved, as if the occupants had just vanished. But then, we hit it. The end of the main corridor. And a door. This wasn't just a door. It was a vault, thicker than any other we'd seen, with multiple locking pins sunk directly into the frame. And the sign, even through the grime, it was clear. Biohazard, Level 4, do not enter. And another almost completely faded. Project Z-17, Conta ... The rest was unreadable. Holy shit. This is it. This is what the legends were about. We shouldn't. Level 4 biohazard? That's serious. My gut screamed at me to turn around. But the curiosity, the sick, irresistible pull of something so forbidden, it was stronger. We had to know. We had to see. It took even longer than the hatch. We used cutting torches, hydraulic spreaders, even some explosives we probably shouldn't have been carrying. Each successful lock released with a sickening groan. The door slowly creaks open, revealing absolute blackness inside. A beam of light pierces the darkness. The air inside seems to shimmer. It's colder, wetter, and the silence is even more profound, almost painful. When the door finally gave, the air that rushed out was dead, stale, and it smelled metallic, like old blood and something acrid, almost chemically rotten. The first thing we saw was a small, cluttered control room. Dust-covered monitors, blinking lights that looked like they'd last glowed decades ago, and a stack of faded, handwritten logbooks. But it was the chamber beyond the control room that froze our blood. In the center, behind what looked like blast-proof glass, was a containment unit, like nothing I'd ever seen. Roughly cylindrical, maybe 10 feet tall, with thick, opaque windows. Tubes and wires snaked into it from the ceiling and floor. And that's when we heard it. A faint, rhythmic scratching, coming from inside the unit. While Liam and Mark shone their lights on the containment unit, transfixed, I grabbed one of the logbooks. The entries. They were terrifying. Clinical, but with a creeping sense of desperation. They talked about Project Z-17, about genetic experimentation, about an organism that defied classification. They used words like aggressive mutation, uncontrollable growth, and sentience. Then, as Liam's high-powered beam hit the glass, something moved inside. A fleeting shadow, not human. Too large, too fluid, too alien. And as the light held, we saw them. Fresh scratch marks. Deep gouges in the inside of the reinforced glass. And the scratching. It was louder now. Urgent. Like it knew we were there. Then I saw the last entry in the logbook. The final, desperate scrawl. Day 237. Containment breached. Section sealed. Evacuate. Project Z-17 terminated. Or so we hoped. And beneath that a fresh, deep scratch on the page itself. That's when all hell broke loose. A sound came from inside the unit. A wet, guttural chittering. And the glass. The thick, reinforced glass began to vibrate. The scratching turned into a furious, tearing sound, like something was trying to claw its way out. It's alive! It's still in there! Get out, now! We didn't stop to think. Primal terror took over. We ran. Scrambled back through the control room, shoving past each other. The chittering, the scratching. It seemed to follow us, echoing off the concrete walls. We didn't even look back. We barely made it out. We didn't even bother trying to seal the hatch again. We just drove. And drove. I kept one page. The last one. As a reminder. Mark barely talks about it. Liam, the bravest of us, has been having night terrors. Me? I just can't shake the feeling. The feeling of being watched. Of that thing. Still scratching. Still waiting. We never went back. And we never will. Some things are buried for a reason. Some secrets are meant to stay in the dark. Because sometimes, when you dig deep enough, you don't just unearth the past. You wake something up. The Zenith complex is still out there. And so is Project Z17. I don't know what it was, or if it's truly still contained. But I know this. The truth is often far more terrifying than any ghost story. If you made it this far, you're braver than most. Subscribe for more true horror stories, told just the way they happened. Stay alert, stay curious, and remember, the scariest things are the ones that feel real. Until next time, keep your lights on.